Hey guys, welcome to the Triple Double podcast. We're doing the intro a little different today. Just finished recording this episode you're about to listen to with Coach Quincey Simpson, head coach at Lima Senior High School, Lima, Ohio, as well as running an AAU program. And we're going to try and recap this really good episode with Coach Q. Talked a lot about the inner city of Lima, some of the problems there, how he tries to help his kids, how he tries to build a relationship with his kids off the court, and that funnels into a relationship on the court where he can help them develop into better players and better people. And just the whole concept of trying to come from a small community such as Lima and gain exposure for his, kids around the state of Ohio and to college coaches. Really respect what he brought to the table today, and that he was extremely honest about his past, and in a spot where, in the professional level, a lot of guys would try and hide that. And, he says, he is who he is, and here's what he's been through, and here's how it helped him get here. And probably most importantly, here's how he is trying to use his experiences to get to the next level. So really, really good guy to know in the Northwest Ohio area, Lima, Ohio area, someone who's really trying to help all the kids there, whether they play basketball or they're just in the school or in the community. So you're going to enjoy this episode. Again, Quincey Simpson, Lima Senior High School, and you're listening to the Triple Double Podcast.
The Detroit Pistons select Luke Kennard from Duke University. The Utah Jazz select Darius Baisley from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another week with the Triple Double Podcast. My name is Corey Albertson with Triple Double Prospects. We've got Jason Morrow of 270 Hoops as our producer, and today's guest is Coach Quincey Simpson, aka Coach Q. Q, what's going on, man?
How you doing, man? What's happening?
We're just happy to be here. So, Quincey Simpson, head basketball coach. Absolutely. Quincey Simpson, head basketball coach at Lima Senior High School, led his team to the Ohio Division I State Finals in 2016, where his son, Xavier Simpson, was Mr. Basketball. Besides coaching at Lima Senior, Coach Simpson is also the program director of C2K Elite, an Under Armour-sponsored club team. So, Coach Q, what I wanted to start out with today is this. When we have high school coaches on the podcast, like to kind of get some background as to what drove them to the game. And I know you've been around the game of basketball, I'm assuming your whole life. Lima, Northwest Ohio is big on the game of basketball, but you're one of the guys who got into high school coaching after having a lot of success on the travel circuit, coaching your son. So as a guy who started coaching your son on the travel circuit, then joined a shoot team circuit, and it kind of went bigger from there, how did you get to coaching at Lima Senior?
Man, it's been a grind. First I definitely got to say it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing, but it's been, what I'm saying? When I say a grind, I mean it. I mean that. I was passed over from getting the job the first time around, and I actually thought I should have gotten it then, but God had a better plan for me. I continued to grind. I did some other coaching opportunities. I coached at Lima Senior. I moved back to Lima, kind of back up a little bit. I moved back to Lima in 2002. I was living in Colorado. That's where I went to school at. I went to junior college in Texas. And then I finished in Colorado at a Division II school in Colorado. I signed at a D1 school, but in the spring before I got there, the coaching staff had got fired. And so I ended up going to a D2 school in Colorado. And, school, I was done, and I was still trying to do, the pro thing, the overseas thing. And, I had a couple overseas opportunities, but I was young, I was bullheaded, and I didn't really know what I know now as far as how that landscape is when you start talking about going overseas. And so, I was a guy, I had my kids, I had my kids early, you know what I mean? Fresh out of high school, I got 2 kids, and so my kids was getting older, you know what I mean? And I'm still trying to chase the basketball dream. And so I just, I came home. I remember coming home in the fall just to visit, just to see the family, just to be home for a few days. And I remember, my kids. At this time, I had 3 kids, my daughter and my 2 sons. And I remember the looks on their faces and how they was crying, and you know what I'm saying, and it was just overwhelming as a father, you know what I'm saying. And so when I went back out to Colorado, I was just kind of asking myself, what was my purpose? I never wanted to be an over the phone father. I wanted to have my presence felt and within my kids' upbringing. And so I never wanted to really be in Lima, if that makes sense. But I had a tough decision to make, and it was real easy, and so I decided, you know what, hey, I'm going to come home. And so I came home, got a job working for the state. I did that for 12 and a half years. I worked for the state of Ohio. But within that, I coached 4 years freshman at Lima Senior, and then I coached 3 years JV. And so at that time, the varsity coach, he left, and I thought I was going to get the varsity job, but I didn't. And so I stayed on 2 years with the other coach. 2 real good, successful years together. But then after that, I ended up taking a head coach at a small college. I did that for 1 year, changed the program around, and within that, I was always doing AAU. We had a local team, in Lima. It was called Team Lima, just local kids, but a lot of people, it's funny because a lot of people don't know this all originated from football. I coached all these kids for football. We had a Pee Wee football team. So we had coached all these kids for football. And I knew, my nephew, Elijah, and my son, and another kid, Fat Man, we knew they could play basketball a little bit. And so one day we had a picnic at this park, and all these kids was playing basketball, and I'm like, wow, these kids can hoop. We ought to think about, putting them in a couple little tournaments. And so we kind of just created, a team, and they was 3rd grade, and went around and, did fairly decent, didn't travel too far. But then in the 4th grade, we traveled. We traveled, I wouldn't say far, but, we went to Milwaukee. We went, Fort Wayne, Columbus, all over Ohio and whatnot. And so at that time, if you remember, the Cincinnati Knights was like the number 1 team in the country. They had just won nationals. Leon, my man Leon, was the coach of the Knights. So at the time,
Luke Kennard and them.
Yeah, Luke and them. I didn't know them, but the team was 4th graders, but X was a 3rd grader, so he was kind of playing up basically. And so he wasn't playing up because I thought he was good enough. It was just all his friends was just a year ahead of him, if that makes sense, grade wise. And so, we we playing. I think we got a fairly decent team. And I remember calling Leon and then the other guy that was coaching with Leon. I forgot his name. But I remember calling them saying, hey, I want to bring my team down there just for a scrimmage, because I wanted a measuring stick. This team had just won nationals. I really want to see where we are. Well, it didn't work, but we ended up seeing them in the King James in Akron. And, wow, I'll just say that. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, wow. They pounded us, to say the least. They were really good, very well coached. And so, they beat up on us. And then, OBC at the time had beat up on us. I'm talking like 30 ball, beating us real good. So it was kind of like, okay, we're going to come back home, get back to the drawing board. The kids is playing football, basketball, whatnot. So then, kind of speed up the time. Make a long story short, each year we started closing that gap. You know, the Cincinnati Knights in the 5th grade, they was beating us by 20. OBCs, Indiana Elites beating us by 20. 6th grade, they was beating us by 15, 12. So I'm seeing the gap closing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if the kids realize it. I'm sure they don't, but I'm seeing it. 7th grade, now they beating us by 8, 6. A couple possessions here and there, we might have a shot to win. I'm seeing that. Now it's a game for the most part, the whole game, and it's coming down to the last couple minutes, a key rebound, a turnover, a missed layup, and they end up pulling it out. You know what I'm saying? But then in the 8th grade, I'll never forget, in the 8th grade, I had a couple kids. Rico Stafford is one. He hit a growth spurt. I had another kid named Trey Smith that was from Delphus, right here in Lima, basically, right, 5 minutes from Lima. He hit a growth spurt, and it was kind of like, we ready now. And so, you remember the good teams was the, Cincinnati Knights, Cincinnati Lakers, all Ohio, OBC, and that was the year that, we basically pounded all them teams out. And when I say pounded them out, we pounded them out. The Ohio Warriors was good then. And so that was the turning point. Now, I was still coaching. I coached 1 year at the college, Rose State College, and then a guy approached me about coaching, being a head coach in the ABA. A lot of people don't know I was a head coach in the ABA, and so I did that for 1 year, and it was great. We had a real great team, but with some stuff that was going on outside financially with players and myself, that I did it for 1 year. It was successful. We did really well, but I just didn't want to put myself back in that environment, being frustrated, and things like that. So I just continued to coach AAU, and then when we was in the 8th grade, we went to Florida for the nationals or whatnot, and that was another eye opener. I'm taking my local, quote unquote, my local Lima team to Florida, and that's when I seen, like, if you don't have a 6'7", 6'8", you don't have a chance to win. Thon Maker, all those guys was there. So we'll get back. Jerry Watson called me. I played with Jerry, so I know about all Ohio. He wanted to put together, a team, and I knew at that time that this team was not going to be able to be together for the duration. I had a couple kids that was really good in football. I had a couple that was decent in basketball. Then I had a couple that I really just didn't know what I was going to do with them, if that made sense. But I just didn't want to leave them. And so Jerry had called me, and he wanted to, his idea was, putting the top 20, 9th grade kids, because that was the year they were going to be freshmen, bringing them in the gym. And then, me and the other guy, Q, that's the head coach at Richmond Heights in Cleveland, him and I would coach, a red or a black. It was never really solidified who was going to do what. And I thought, okay, this sounds fair. But I knew I wanted to coach. I knew that I kind of been coaching for a while. I kind of wanted to coach my own son. Then I get a call from Drew Joyce. And, me and Drew had a real good conversation. Hadn't really known Drew as far as personally before then, but we had a real good conversation. And the thing that stood out to me about Drew was Drew said, "Hey, I'm coming to Lima to meet you. We're going to sit and talk." And so I was like, okay. I'm thinking to myself, I don't know why we can't have a conversation over the phone, but hey, you want to come to Lima? That's fine. So when he came to Lima, we had a really great conversation. It just showed a level of integrity for me as a man, because he didn't have to make that trip. That's a bronze guy. He's set in his ways. He doesn't need it. So when he left, I agree. I gave him my word. I was going to be with King James. Boom. And then I ended up reaching out to Funderburk, the dad, Derek Funderburk, who had, I had already known all these kids from coaching. Reached out to, several people, and from then on, man, it was King James, man, and we kind of turned a lot of heads, and those guys kind of started, the tradition. They allowed me to coach them the way I know how to coach. They allowed me to coach them hard. It wasn't no egos. It was, it was real sweet, man. We qualified, every year for the Peace Jam. It was real sweet, man. It was a real blessing. And then, it carried over. It was kind of disappointing, obviously, to get the call from Drew saying that, LeBron wasn't going to do AAU anymore. But hey, one door closes, another opportunity comes, and the whole AAU with the Under Armour and the C2K, the commitment to kids thing kind of fell in my lap, and it was one of the situations where do I want to be a coach? Do I want to be a director? How can I separate being a director of an AAU program from my Lima Senior job? As far as coaching there, it was just, I had to really sit down, man, and really evaluate, really pray about it, really surround myself with the right people, locally here in Lima. Then I had to really branch out and get some people outside of Lima that I could trust. And so that's why you've always seen guys like Steve Wright, been my right-hand guy, Darnell Hoskins, right-hand guy, Dave Clark, John Bean, locally, my brother, my uncle, who practically raised me, Greg Williamson, my mom. There's just been so many people that have had, a good hand on my character and kind of who I am today. Because a lot of people don't know my past, and it's been kind of rocky. I was in a lot of trouble when I was young. I spent some time in juvenile hall when I was young. I missed my whole junior year playing basketball, being a knucklehead. So, like, when I say, like, I grinded and a lot of doors closed in my face, and I kept grinding to get where I am today, like, that's no lie. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's for real. I don't take any of it for granted, because I know one bad choice, you could lose it all. So I try to watch what I do. I try to watch where I'm at. I try to watch the people that I'm around, because I am more than just a typical coach. Like, I am Lima, Ohio. So when people see me, that's the first thing that they recognize. That's the guy. That's Lima, and so.
And that was my question to you, Q, in that, when you eventually you kind of got to the point where you got the Lima Senior job, and you're a Lima guy through and through, and you're the guy for the community's sake that is spreading the word about who the top Lima guys are throughout the state of Ohio, whether you coached them or not. So, how important is it for Lima Senior to have a Lima guy as the head coach?
I think I think that dynamic is really, really important. Lima is a small community, and so everybody knows everybody, and I'm sure that could be a gift or a curse.
Right.
Not everybody want to see me do well. Just be honest, and I'm sure it's like that with a lot of places. There's a lot of people here, man, that would love to see me do something silly and risk and jeopardize everything that I've worked for. However, there's an opposite side of that I know I have an enormous amount of support coming from a lot of people in Lima. But to be the head coach and to have the relationships that I have with my kids, I know these kids, I know their parents, I know where they come from. I was once one of these kids. It's definitely a blessing. But I think to answer your question, I think it's really important simply for the cause that anything that these kids go through, home life, school life, they know and understand I was once that kid, and I'm relatable, and I think that's important when you're dealing with any public school. You have to have somebody in there who can understand the dynamics of what these kids go through and where these kids come from. And I think once that happens and that occurs, now you start to build trust. And you and I both know what type of kid you get when they trust you. They'll run through a wall for you. I had something to do this weekend.
One thing, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, quickly, I had something going on this weekend, and I gave a couple of players the key to my house. And I told them, hey, I need y'all to go move this furniture and take this over here and that over there. And they did. Didn't ask no questions. Didn't say, hey, we're going to hang out. Like, it was just, that's the type of relationship that, I have with my former players and I have my current players. And I think that's important. I think because when we are coaches, we're bigger than just coaching the X and O game. We got to have our phones available 24 hours a day.
Right. And I think when you talked about knowing the community and then the type of kid you get, I think you've done a good job of really keeping it real with them in that a lot of times I hear people use the phrase, if you can play, the coaches will find you, meaning, colleges recruiting kids. And while that's a beautiful idea, it isn't 100% true, unfortunately. And what that means is, of course. So what that means is if you're from Lima, Ohio, you're might be as good of a player, better of a player as a kid from a bigger city, but you're going to get less exposure opportunities. You have to take bigger advantage of each of those individual opportunities. Now, you have a couple things at your disposal. One of them is community support. When Lima Senior basketball is good, you're going to have tremendous community support. We've seen that on the teams you've coached. But what you guys, I think, have done is you've taken kids from, these hard working, blue collar families, and you've shown them that, when you go to Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, Indianapolis, wherever, you've got to show out and say, this is our only opportunity to show them that, we're from Little Lima, but we can still play.
I mean, you hit the head on the, you hit it right on the nail. And it can kind of be unfair to other places in the state, but I use that as an example. You have to come from Little Lima. You don't get the same respect as kids from Cincinnati, kids from Cleveland, kids from Columbus. You don't get the same respect as the kids from Dayton because you coming from Lima. So if you really want to be, on that level or beyond, you got to work extra harder. You got to put in more work. You got to do things that, I call them the unseen hours. You really got to invest the time just to be on the same level as those kids because those kids come from bigger cities. So the opportunity for them to be seen is much more than what it is here in Lima. And I think the kids that buy into that, those are the kids who've kind of been successful at, playing ball and going to school, beyond high school. But, the first thing is we got to hit our kids with the academic part. And, we as coaches, we would all love to bring our programs in the auditorium or in the gym and say, hey, we got to get A's and B's. You can go to this school or that school. But when you come from a public school, honestly, athletes don't want to hear that. They want to hear if you can catch a football, if you can throw a football, if you can play basketball, you have an opportunity to get a scholarship. And so I take that and I get them bought in off that. And then I can backdoor them with, okay, now that you got this part, now we got to master the academic aspect. And then once we can get that academic aspect mastered, now we got the state of completion. Now we can probably try to get you a scholarship somewhere. But our kids here in Lima can go on see. And I got two guys on my team this year that are really good. I think they're really good. But I've been totally honest with them. It's probably going to be D2 because you're not on any Division I guys' boards right now. Now, to be a different story, we've seen guys make deep tournament runs. They play well at the right time in front of the right coaches. Hey, anything could happen. But you're rolling the dice on that, where you can get an opportunity. You got a couple of Division II schools that's recruiting you. If one of them gives you an offer, you don't want to wait it out through the season. That'd be my best bet. And so, I think having those types of conversations with kids and being honest, everybody can't play Division I. I don't think people in Ohio, I don't think people across the country truly understand how hard it is to play Division I basketball. I don't think they understand that. I think they see how a lot of colleges give out scholarships to certain players, and they think that it's supposed to happen that easy. But it's not. I mean, you've been around, so to play Division I basketball, you have to be special in some sort.
Absolutely, and I think you've taken it to another level. And just watching you on social media, I see you on Twitter and Facebook all the time, and you've talked about kids who have had academic issues. You talked about your own kind of personal issues growing up and making some mistakes, and you've definitely taken it beyond basketball and trying to help kids in that school and that community, whether they play or not. But one thing that you talked about recently on social media that I wanted you to address is you kind of issued a challenge to high school coaches that follow you, which was to not cut the troubled kids from their program simply because, well, it's going to be a little easier to coach the team if I just get rid of this kid. But your challenge to them was to let's give these kids one more opportunity because maybe basketball can save them from what they're becoming.
I mean, you just never know the impact that you have on a young person's life when you put them around some positive environment. I was that kid. Luckily for me, I could just hoop. I knew I wasn't going to get cut because I knew my game was really good, and I knew when I was in high school, I knew how to behave from November to March. I could behave. Before then and after then, I was off the I was off the hook. But nowadays, these kids are different. They can't differentiate one thing from another. So I made that challenge to the coaches, like keep 2 or 3, even 4 trouble kids, because when you take the kid out of that type of environment and you put them in a structured, positive environment, I do it every year. Kids' grades come up, they buy into wanting to be a part of a team, and it's really unique to see a kid that played for me, 2, 3, 4 years ago that was, on a self-destructive pathway, and now just that opportunity of being a part of something positive, influential, changed his whole future.
And how much of it is just showing them that somebody cares about him and is willing to put the time in with them, especially that person being a male.
Because when you come from a lot of kids that come from public schools, they come, let's be honest, they come from a lot of single parent homes. So one of the things that they lack is fatherhood, and so they cry out for that without saying that. They wish they had a guy involved, a mentor, a father figure type of guy. And so it just goes beyond just the game of basketball. And so, like, for me to get invitations to birthdays, for me to get invitations to certain events, those things mean something to me, because those things are going to go far more beyond just bouncing the basketball. And so I did challenge coaches, and I will continue to challenge coaches to keep a few of those kids. I had a kid on my team just last season, a troubled kid on my team. Hey, nobody wanted this kid on the team, and I mean that. And so I kept him. He was kind of rough around the edges a little bit, and he had a hiccup throughout the middle of the season, and I removed him from the team. I think it was probably 2 days. And one day we was having our worst practice, and I said, I know what the problem is. I need to go get this kid back on the team, because he was our energizer. He was the guy that kept practice live. He would always say something smart to me, but it was humorous. It was always, he knew exactly what to say, when to say it, to get our team either from getting us out of a funk, from getting us to relax. So, I went and got him back and told him, hey, this is going to be a punishment. We're going to move on. We're going to keep going. And the kid is in college now, doing exceptionally well. And I think too many times, I've seen it, too many times coaches mark kids off because, they had, some roadblocks along the way where, if you can pull a kid in, he's probably crying out for help anyway. And if you can pull him in and show him a little love, but show him some tough love at the same time, I'm a firm believer, man, it could change that kid's life.
Well, you talked about helping those kids as a father figure oftentimes, and one of the things with those kids is usually implementing structure, like you said, and finding things for them to do after school, outside of school, that keep them away from trouble. And, one of those things in Lima, it's a small town, there's not a million things to do, but one of those things is to always get in the gym. And, getting in the gym in Lima is a big deal. People who follow basketball in the state, have probably heard stories about your son, and, college coaches even telling him, like, dude, you got to slow down. Like, you're burning your body out. You're working so hard at it. But, you're very active in getting those guys in the gym. How can we do more skill work? Basically, if a guy wants to get in the gym, you're not going to tell him no, it seems like.
Not really. I've been telling Khalil Luster no here lately a little bit. He's trying to be in the gym a little too much, and so I'm telling him same thing that Coach Howard was telling my son. Your frame is already small. Your body can only take on so much. You're doing our conditioning, our weight training, and other things like that. You can't consistently do all those things and then go to the gym and work your body out. Hour and a half, 2 hours. That just can't work. But besides that, when I got the job at Lima Senior, I was honest with my superintendent, my athletic director. I said, hey, the gym has to be available for our kids. I wouldn't call it a community center, but at the same time, our kids need to be in the gym. We need to know where they are. We need to know that they're getting better, they're getting developed. And then those guys supported me and trusted me. And so we do spend a lot of time in the gym before school, after school, late nights, because Lima is small. And I tell people all the time, you're going to be an athlete, you're going to be, someone that's heavy involved in your academics, or you're going to put yourself at risk, get in trouble. The choice is yours. And so the people that want to be on one of those sides of the boat, those people tend to have some success. Trouble is really, really easy to get into no matter where you are. But we've seen so many talented people come from Lima who kind of just made the wrong turn. And so my job here is to help these kids not make those types of choices, and I think so far we've done a great job.
You said an interesting thing with making it a community center, because the next thing I was going to ask you about is, you're taking a lot of kids, whether you've, again, being a small community, you've known a lot of them maybe since they were born or little kids, and you're trying to instill discipline. Some of them don't have discipline at home, depending on where they come from, and you're trying to be really hard on them and the way you coach them, and you're going to get after them and coaching them. You're trying to create a style of basketball where you have the tougher kids, like we talked about, and taking advantage of the opportunities despite not having the numbers to have the teams with the physical prowess. But for all of that, one thing you also like to do, and I've seen it again on social media a million times from you, is you like to play around with those kids. There's basketball, and then when basketball ends, there's opportunities to have fun, and you're always screwing with them, playing practical jokes on them, and there's some coaches that can pull that off. There's some that don't, but I feel like it's something that you think is important to let them know that once the ball stops bouncing, there's still another side of you, and your relationship with them doesn't really end.
I mean, you're exactly right. Every coach is probably different. But I've been around kids since I've been coaching. Again, it started with football. So, my oldest son was 9, or 8. So, almost 20 years, close to, we talking 16, 17 years, all year round, I've been around kids. So quite naturally, I'm going to be a kid. I'm going to act like a kid. I have a lot of immature ways that can come down to a kid's level. So I'm big on playing jokes. I'm big on cracking jokes. I'm big on comedy, having fun. But the kids, they clearly know there's a line. All my guys know there is a line. And once you cross that line, now you're going to get Coach Q. If you don't want to get Coach Q, don't cross the line. And I can be one of the fellas. And the kids know in my program, I don't tolerate nonsense in school. And when we step inside the lines, it's all business. Outside of that, these guys are like sons to me. We have a lot of great conversations, a lot of real conversations. You see me pouring water on just about everybody, even including my AAU guys. We've had some of the greatest conversations and spent a lot of great time together. And those guys even know. When you cross that line, but I think that's really, really important. I think the kids, you build a relationship, you build trust, you build a bond, And that's something that me personally, I think is important.
And you also, perpetuate that it's fun. And if the game of basketball, for all the travel they're putting into it, all the time they're putting into it, and then on the AAU level, all the pressure, and you're talking about competing on the shoe circuit, and as great of an opportunity as those kids have, and hopefully they appreciate it, they also have a hell of a lot of pressure on them to come out there and play in front of college coaches and have to hear all the distractions. So you're showing them that at the end of the day, we're still playing a game, and basketball is going to be a part of your life, but it's not going to be your life.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. I mean, we run our AAU program almost like a high school program. We practice. Kids spend a lot of time, at my house. They spend a lot of days at my house, at each other's houses. We want to kind of do things similar. So when these kids make that transition to the collegiate level, the only thing we want is for those guys to be prepared. And so nothing is a surprise. And they don't get there, even if it's my high school guys, and they say, hey, Q didn't prepare me for this, or, Q didn't prepare me for that. I clearly know, once you get to the collegiate level, there won't be anything that a coach can tell you or show you that I'm not going to be able to tell you and show you while you're here with me. And I think, again, we've had some success doing it. It's kind of a real blessing to turn on the TV on ESPN and even know, even a lot of the kids that I may not have coached, but just grew up coaching against or watching play. Those things are a tremendous feeling. And now to think, hey, in a year or two, you may have a few guys that could be playing professionally at some level. So I think it's pretty special, man. But when you're a coach, you wear many hats. And I think the successful coaches, and I don't mean winning games. I mean changing kids' lives. I think those types of guys kind of understand those valuable things that you have to do to be more than just coach.
Well, the last thing I want to ask you, you started to address there, which is, you guys have had success in just a couple years of, having your own program with Under Armour and C2K, and you've had a lot of guys sign to go to college, and it's competitive in terms of recruiting for AAU. Your job is to go out there, and Under Armour sponsoring you because you've got the ability to get the best players in Ohio, and the competition is there with other sponsored teams in Ohio and other teams that recruit Ohio kids, whether they're in the state or not. So, not asking you to speak negatively about anybody else, but in terms of what you guys do with C2K, what is your pitch to kids as to we've got this program? Why should I send my son to play for C2K?
Yes, it's easy, and we're not going to negative recruit any kids. I strictly tell kids what we can do. And there's two things that we do, and I think it stands out from us in any program, not just programs in Ohio. Number one, we practice consistently. I tell kids and parents that if you're going to play for C2K, you got to commit to practice. Now, where that practice is, it could depend on where majority of the team is from. And then it's going to be structured. And so, we're not showing up Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock, picking any, mini, mighty, mo, getting 5 guys out there and just playing rec ball. That's not happening. Running sets, guys got to know where to be defensively. Guys got to know how to block out, hit rebounds. And I think when you do the small things, especially on the circuit, when you do the small things, those equal out wins. And I think, the last couple of years we've had some great success because of that. We don't try to get the best 8, 9 kids in the state because you and I both know that never works. These kids are microwave babies, this whole generation. They don't believe in baking cakes for 45, 50 minutes in the oven. They want everything really, really quick. So we have to make sure that, we can't go get the top 8, 9 kids because it won't work. So we got to be able to get 2 or 3 kids that's really, really good. We got to go get a couple glue guys, some guys that's going to defend, rebound, and just be team guys. And then we try to mix those types of kids together, try to find you a couple shooters inside of that dynamic. And if you can get that, I think that's still success. And I think that is why, in a short amount of time, C2K has had some success. And along with that, the most important thing is getting the right coaches around you. Getting the right people around you who's going to be able to do the best they can for the kids. Dave Clark has done a tremendous job, at helping making this program what it is. You know, Steve Wright, you know, again, he was my guy going back to the King James days. He's no longer with me, coaching at the collegiate level now, but he had a big part in C2K. And so right now it's me and Dave, and we got a couple other guys on the outside that's doing a lot of positive things for us. But, you know, I think having guys around you that's coaching for the right reasons, that helps the program grow.
And what you guys are doing is obviously working because, like I said, you guys are certainly trending upward in the state of Ohio, as well as, you know, having great success at Under Armour. So, well, Q, I want to thank you for taking the time. Wish you guys nothing but success at Lima Senior, nothing but success for your son in his senior season at Michigan, and thank you again for giving us your time, Coach.
Hey, I appreciate you, Corey, man. Definitely.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that was Quincey Simpson, head coach, Lima Senior, program director, C2K Elite. You listen to the Triple Double podcast. For Jason Morrow, I'm Corey Albertson. Thanks for checking us out. This podcast is brought to you by PlayEasy.com. For players, coaches, or casual athletes looking to book a sports facility, as well as owners and managers of sports facilities, PlayEasy.com is the new one-stop site for streamlined services. If you're looking for a place to practice, play, host your tournament, camp, or other, simply go to PlayEasy.com and create a booking request for your area. Your request will go out to surrounding facilities who will respond with their best offer. Once you receive the offer that best fits your needs, book the facility and you're ready to play. For facility owners and managers, PlayEasy puts the power in your hands to maximize the usage and visibility of your facility. Register your facility for free today at PlayEasy.com. PlayEasy.com is the booking site built by athletes, coaches, and facility managers, and is proud to help bring you the Triple Double podcast. This podcast is also brought to you by Anago Cleaning Systems. Are you tired of struggling in a dead-end job? If so, Anago Cleaning Systems has what you're looking for, an opportunity to go into business for yourself, but not by yourself. With franchising opportunities available for as little as a $2,500 down payment, purchasing an Anago franchise has never been easier. Once you own your Anago franchise, you're licensed to clean commercial facilities all around the greater Cincinnati, Dayton, or Columbus areas with the support of Anago's sales, quality control, operational, and accounting staff. Call 513-332-0033 today for your opportunity to be your own boss and grow your own commercial cleaning company under the guidance of Anago's proven and successful system. Again, call 513-332-0033 to learn more. With Anago, your future starts today.